David, you heard that. Ready to start the recording when you are, David.
Hi, everyone.
Great. So, respectful greetings, everyone and colleagues. It's nice to see you all here again on day 4 of FWG 5. I want to just begin by thanking everyone for their contributions yesterday. The facilitators of the breakout groups, the rapporteurs, and the contributors who all really contributed to what was a really rich discussion in the breakout groups, and as well as the secretariat, who has been working almost 24/7 in terms of capturing the notes and getting all the all of your inputs together into a form that we can make sure is captured and use as the basis for our next work plan. So I think we did a lot of heavy lifting yesterday, and I thank you for all of those who played a role in that. And you know, looking at today's agenda, we still have a lot of heavy lifting to do. So I hope we can keep that spirit of collaboration going and finalize that, or not finalize, but you know, get the work plan into a good place as we move forward to work on it intersessionally. So in terms of today's agenda, we do have a lot to cover. So we'll be doing parallel groups and a breakout on the work plan after we provide some introductory remarks on the plan going forward, as well as what we heard yesterday. Then we'll be doing the parallel groups and receiving readouts from the facilitators and rapporteurs. We'll also have a session on building coherence between the Facilitative Working Group and other constituted bodies, and I understand that some constituted bodies are here to join us today. They've been observing the session, and they might provide some remarks on some possible synergies. We also have the any other business section, which I understand is, you know, we have some important topics to cover there, including around translation and making sure that the Facilitative Working Group's views on translation are accurately reflected in our report, as well as the terms of reference that Daly mentioned as well, to have a discussion on that. And then, of course, a dialogue with contributors on all those elements. So quite a lot to get through today, but looking forward to it. I think we'll have some rich discussions. So before I just give some remarks on the work plan and the plan going forward and pass it to the Secretariat, I do want to just take a moment to recognize some of the recent disturbing climate news yesterday. You know, I know it's not official, but I think it really did speak to the dire situation that we find ourselves in, and really the gravity and the urgency of the need for a real paradigm shift in how we live our lives, how we interact with nature, and how we become stewards of this planet in a more positive and sustainable way. And I think this group really has that potential. Indigenous peoples, local communities, they're stewards of nature. That's why this group is here. Parties have a lot to learn from Indigenous peoples in terms of reorienting our relationship with nature. And I think we heard that a lot in the breakout groups. And you know, I think the seriousness of the situation we find ourselves in really does give that impetus to our work. And I know that, you know, when we're filling out tables of the work plan, it can feel a bit removed, but I do hope that as we go forward in the work plan, we can really keep those priorities in mind that Andrea has mentioned, that I think a number of you have mentioned in the breakout groups, in terms of reducing emissions, implementing rights, and really positioning Indigenous peoples as climate leaders and supporting that and having us learn from them in terms of going forward and really making a difference is what I hope we can accomplish in the next work plan. And I think we've heard a lot of that in the breakout groups. You know, the knowledge discussion, I think there's a lot to be offered there, a lot of interaction, but of course it has to be rights-based. And I look forward to seeing what the activities will look like in that function of the platform. Capacity building, I think we've heard a lot around, you know, empowering youth, doing youth roundtables, because you know, they're leaders themselves, but they're also the ones who have to live with the consequences of what we do or do not do today. So I think, you know, the capacity building function, I think we'll have a lot of good activities there. And then climate policies and actions, I thought there were a lot of great discussions about the need to mainstream Indigenous peoples into NDCs, but also recognize the climate leadership Indigenous peoples are already showing in their own communities, and showcasing that to parties, because it's a two-way street, as we've heard throughout discussions. So with that, I just wanted to offer those remarks and just take a second to remind ourselves of the urgency of the situation and acknowledge yesterday's really troubling news and just encourage everyone to redouble our efforts as we look towards finalizing the work plan. So a few comments on the work plan before I turn it over to the Secretariat. So I think as many mentioned yesterday, our previous co-chairs, Andrea and Yo, have drafted an introduction to the work plan. It includes the previously agreed language around the functions of the work plan, as well as a language on FPIC. And I think that introduction will serve us well in terms of making sure all the right safeguards that we've discussed throughout the breakout rooms are reflected at the top of the work plan. So I just wanted to remind everyone that there will be that introduction that will cover a lot of the discussion points that we discussed yesterday. And then in terms of the plan for today, I would just remind everyone that the Secretariat is recording all your ideas and activities throughout the discussions. What our plan is to continue the breakout groups and hear more. And what we would encourage you to do is to really refine the ideas that you began discussing yesterday so that we can consider not just activity text in the next work plan, because we do have the previous work plan. We did have 2 days devoted to hearing how we might want the activities from the previous work plan to move forward into the next work plan. But if there are additional activities, what I'd really like all of you to spend the breakout time doing is to try to refine those a bit more, identify partners. I know we've heard many people from the caucus wanting to be partners. Maybe they're partners in every activity, but partners with other groups that might be there. And then think about a bit about timelines and how we can have the most value. And I know the Secretariat will provide some remarks to that effect as well. So before I turn it over to the Secretariat, I just wanted to take a moment to see if Hindu and my co-chair had any remarks, or otherwise we'll turn it to Coco.
Thank you very much, Tom, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you really for reminding us for this urgency we are facing now. This is really very important. I wanted to hear firstly from Coco, and then maybe I can come back with you if there is any comments or guidance to the work group. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Hindu. Coco, please go ahead, you have the floor.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Tom and Hindu, and hello, everyone. Joanna is putting up some slides. I'm going to walk you through 3 slides. And Tom, after your really important comments, this feels very nuts and bolts, but this is the work that all of you are doing to close the gap between the urgency that we feel in the world now and the actual work that we're going to do. So even though this seems very workaday, it is, because this is our work to close the gap. So first, I want to familiarize all of you with what the work plan is actually going to look like. So this slide is actually a legend, giving you the actual, all of the notes and everything. We're organizing that, and giving that to all of you might just be a little bit like drinking water out of a fire hose, a little bit too much all at once. So let me give you an overview. And as Thomas just said, the FWG is gathering inputs for its draft second 3-year work plan. So that's between 2022 all the way out to 2024. And after it gets all of your inputs, it will streamline and prioritize intersessionally. So here are the elements. And Joanna, if you could press once. So if you look at the green bar on that visual there, the FWG members have drafted an introduction, as Tom said, that contains the functions of the local communities and Indigenous peoples platform. There are 3: knowledge, capacity, and climate policy in action. That introduction includes cross-cutting considerations and strategic objectives. Joanna, could you press? Thank you. The table is organized by the 3 functions of the LCIPP, and those are those darker blue bars that you see in the legend. So you have, as I said, knowledge, capacity, climate change policies and actions, and then the table contains columns, and those columns are capturing, that's a way to gather all of your ideas and organize them by activities, results, possible approaches, inputs, partners, and time frame. And I'll say a word about this in the next slide. Next, click. There are also rows with the activities themselves. And many of these are continuations or enhancements or building on the good lessons learned from this first 2 years of work that the FWG has made. And those are the light blue lines in the legend. One more click, Joanna. You'll also see in the legend, yellow. Yellow are the new activities. In discussion with all of you, some ideas, some really nice ideas for new activities are included. And then finally, one more click, Joanna. We've also gathered cross-cutting themes, additional partners, additional activity areas, and FWG can consider these as it's, again, streamlining and prioritizing the work plan intersessionally. So that just gives you a visual picture or a mental picture of what the work plan will look like once it's all put together. Next slide, please. For the next 2 slides are really for you to head into this next hour or so of work in the breakout groups. Some design considerations. The way that you help the FWG put together its work plan really makes a difference in terms of how much impact the work plan has. In the past, there have been work plans, just from secretariat experience, have had many, many, many activities. And that experience shows that the more that constituted bodies put thought into synergies with the work plans of other groups, with what's going on out in the world, as well as partner organizations, the more synergies there are, the more potential there is for impact. Timing also plays an important role. When would deliverables be especially constructive? You can have a very, very fancy, wonderful event that comes 3 weeks after the decision point. And you can have a very modest event that feeds in a really important input just at the right time in a process. So again, talk with one another and think about what timing would help these activities really have a constructive impact. And then partners. With whom would it make sense to partner? And here we're taking lots of indicative suggestions from you. These could be relevant partner organizations, constituted bodies. And again, those partners really help enliven the very purpose of the platform, which is, and I'm just paraphrasing, but the purpose of the platform when it was set up at COP21 was to strengthen knowledge, technologies, practices, and efforts of local communities and Indigenous people, and really foster that holistic exchange of experiences about mitigation and adaptation with parties. So just in shorthand, those are 3 tips you might keep in mind as you go into your breakout groups. And the last slide, this may look a little bit overwhelming all at once. So this is just a tiny snapshot of all of the really great ideas and material that you've brought into this meeting, FWG 5. Some of that relies on the reflections from all of the co-leads of the activities that you heard on day 1 and 2. And a lot of it also draws on new ideas. So just a quick look at the columns: activity ideas, expected results, possible partners. Those are some of the columns in the work plan draft that FWG is pulling together. So as all of you now head into the breakout groups, the Secretariat will provide these, it's by LCIPP function. So we're going to take those into each one of these breakout groups, and you can continue making sure that your ideas are captured. As Tom and Hindu both said, the Secretariat is there recording, taking notes, and we will then assist FWG in their work in drafting their work plan at this meeting and then headed forward intersessionally. Thank you so much, Joanna, and co-chairs, back to you.
Great, thank you very much, Coco. So with that, I know the Secretariat has posted the links for the breakout groups in the chat. And just to re-emphasize that we really would like to make sure that we capture everyone's inputs, because I think it's important that we reflect everyone's inputs in the discussion. So want to hear from you on those inputs, and also if we can begin to discuss some of those other elements that Coco just described and start refining them for FWG consideration intersessionally, I think that would be a great use of our time. So with that, I would encourage everyone to go to the respective breakout groups. and a thank you to the co-facilitators who will be supporting those.
Just one thing, Tom, if you allow it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if it's possible that the Secretariat can send the yesterday outcome report to all the facilitators of the groups, so at least they have the capture of all the activities of the yesterday, as also asked by Andrea and all the participants, so that can guide them. And also if you can share the table with the co-facilitators, so that can help them to follow and input the deliverable and timeline, and if there is any activity missing to add it on it. So just I wanted to add this one, and I wanted also to remind of the break. So each co-facilitator secretariat will remind you to have the break before to come back to the plenary. So thank you so much, Tom. I just wanted to remind people that.
Thank you, Hindu. Coco or Secretariat, well, do you want to respond and or just confirm?
Yes, we have the contact details of our co-facilitators for the working groups, the breakout groups. So we can definitely email you that material. It's a lot. And what we'll do to make it easier for you in the breakout groups immediately is we will provide you with just that one slide that I showed last, so that people have a simplified version. So you'll have both. You can work with very extensive notes from your breakout groups yesterday, and then additionally, you'll have the simplified visual if you wish to use it.
Great, thank you, Coco. So with that, we'll close the plenary. If you'd like to stay in the knowledge group, please stay in this room.
There is two hands, sorry, from the members. Alec, Rodion.
Great, let's start with Rodion.
Yes, thanks, Tom. Just in terms of timing, could you again remind us how much time we have for breakout session, and what time we should come back to the plenary, just to be clear what time we have?
Yeah, so in terms of timing, we have until 5:15 Central European time, so about an hour for the breakout group. We'll take a 15-minute break until 5:30, and then we'll return to this room, the plenary, at 5:30 Central European time to hear from the rapporteurs and have a discussion and move on to the other items for the agenda. And maybe we could also ask that the Secretariat just post that in the chat so that it's clear, so everyone has it in their notes. Alec, oh, I see you've, yeah, go ahead, Alec.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same question I had with Rodion, so it's been answered, thanks.
Great, and then I'll call on Fasang.
Thank you, Thomas. I just would like to know that the discussion is just only based on the slides shared by Coco, or are we more based on all the information that based on the yesterday's compilation? I think it would be good in the discussion to have both, even the additional information, so that this will help to have a creative feedbacks, rather just sticking on the just on the slides, right? Because there was a very extensive discussion yesterday in the knowledge, but that has not all captured with a few lines. So it would be more good if we have the information there on the table, so that would be helpful even to put our reference when we discuss or when we have additional inputs for the library discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Fasang. And yes, absolutely. The slide that the Secretariat showed was a quick, rough summary. It's just difficult to turn around a full comprehensive summary overnight. So it was just meant as a point of illustration, but please do continue on the points that you as facilitator found really important in your breakout groups. That's certainly, we're not meant to be, it's not meant to be excluding any activities. It's meant to just be a quick point of illustration, but certainly continue discussing the important conversations that you began yesterday. And Andrea.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to flag the question by Juan Carlos Hintiach in the chat. It was similar, I think, to what Pasang said, and there might have been some confusion with the slide that Coco showed, because I think it was more of an example rather than an attempt to have a comprehensive inclusion of what was discussed. So if I'm correct on that, then I think we can assure everybody that everyone's points will be included, and what Coco showed was just an example and not an attempt to summarize what was actually said yesterday. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. So Wanka, este fue un ejemplo. I'll speak English. that was just an example. And I think we're going to have a report afterwards that has all of the points that were raised, and then it will be up to us to try to consolidate those and put them together, because I just wanted to comment that even though we keep saying we want to be strategic and focused and have maybe less activities, at least in the knowledge group, what we are tending to do is keep the ones we had before, to refine them and build on them, and then add other ones too. So we're kind of not doing what we agreed to do. And I know that is really going to be hard for us. You know, there's a pie and it's only so big, and you know, our choice is to slice it into a lot of tiny slices, or you know, have bigger slices, and so that's, you know, and that pie represents our capacity even in terms of time. So anyway, let's go on with this exercise, but I just want to remind everyone, we said we would try to be more strategic and focused, and not just keep what we have now and add new ones. So again, I know that's really tough for all of us, including me, to try to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. And yes, that's a great point. I think the perfect point to lead us into the breakout groups is just reminding everyone of the challenges that we faced with our current work plan in terms of its breadth, but also wanting to capture everyone's inputs and prioritize. So the FWG has its work cut out for it on that, but to the extent we can keep that in mind in the breakout sessions, I think will be helpful in facilitating our work going forward. So with that, I'll close the plenary and we'll move on to the breakout groups. Again, knowledge is here, and the links for capacity building and policy and climate actions is in the chat. Thanks a lot, everyone.